Welcome to the Industry Current Affairs show on the Fitness Business Podcast. And today we chat with Anthony Vennare from Fit Insider and Fit Capital. Anthony has his finger on the pulse of the industry, and we're going to hear what he's seeing and hearing from the industry stats to perspectives on industry development. Anthony is the co-founder of Fit Insider and Fit Capital. As a lifelong athlete, strength coach, and former U.S Marine, Anthony now works at the intersection of technology, venture capital, and health and fitness. An experienced operator, excited founder, and fund advisor, he leads the firm's investment strategy, working closely with startups at their earliest stages. I'm so excited to finally have the opportunity to chat with Anthony today. I've been receiving the Fit Insider newsletter for over 12 months, and it's always filled with stats and thoughts. In fact, just this week, the edition 219 came out with rising last year. Gym's visits were up 32% for the first 2 weeks of January 23 versus the same time frame for 2022. During the pandemic, 70% of fitness consumers reported missing the gym as much as they missed family and friends, from the McKinsey report. Anthony's second article in edition 219 went on and talked about the unbundling during the pandemic and health club operators adjusting to accommodate a holistic exerciser. 71% of consumers expect companies to deliver personalized interactions. 87% of consumers plan to maintain or increase spending on wellness services. And last year, wellness services rebounded a lot faster than gym visits, with 44% of consumers seeking recovery treatments like massage, cryo, and sauna. Now, I'll put in this week's show at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com/483 a link so that you can subscribe to Anthony's newsletter and get those sorts of thoughts and those sorts of data that will help you shape your decisions. So welcome, Anthony, to the Fitness Business Podcast, and thank you for educating the industry.
Thanks. No, I really appreciate it. Appreciate you having me and for following along with the newsletter.
First up, really interesting stats that you shared just this week. Do you think, from your perspective, that the industry is looking, can we say, healthy?
Yeah. So it's, we look at the industry as the holistic health, wellness, and fitness. It's all bundled together. So it's been healthy all along. But in terms of the gyms specifically, I think overall, yes. But it really depends on, I think it was about a month or two ago, we wrote about some of the stats. I think some trends are up, some classes and studios are up, some big box gyms are up, but some are down as well. So I think overall the health is there and the interest is there. But it's definitely sector and modality dependent.
And you said just then that you kind of look at wellness, fitness, at that holistic look. Is that the future, that we have to look as a whole instead of, these segments of wellness, restoration, fitness? Is it that bundling up again?
Yeah, 100%. The future of the industry is, we wrote about it not too long ago. It was the term "everything is wellness." So everything, whether fitness, health, digital, there's so much, and it's all based off of this kind of wellness consumer and what they're spending their time on. And that's, whether they're buying an 8-sleep bed, or they're wearing a wearable, or they're tracking their stats, or they have certain, dietary things that they're following, or they're training at the gym, or they're playing a pickup sport like pickleball or basketball, or they're going and participating in activities like cycle or gravel cycling and trail running. It's all fitness and wellness and health all bundled together. And I think that is where the change in the industry is coming. And I think that's why Fit Insider has grown so much, is because we've been pulling in, a broader look at the market versus just brick and mortar 4-wall gyms.
You mentioned pickleball. For those people outside of the US, they probably don't really understand what pickleball is. But pickleball has just boomed in the last 12 months, hasn't it, as a activity?
Yeah, I think there's a few sports. Paddle's big over in Europe. Pickleball's big. I mean, look at Street FC is doing with pickup soccer in different cities. It's what we call social fitness plus. It's like this, time is limited for a lot of people. How can they go be active, but also be social, spend time with their friends and family and community. And it's these activities. It's so fun. I think they're all kind of growing and exceeding, especially like paddle and pickleball and other things, is it's kind of accessible to most people. I go and get crushed at the pickleball court by 70-year-old women that don't even have to move. They're just better than me by standing still. My buddy and I play, and it's funny every time we lose. So yeah, it's really cool and it's fun and it's accessible to a lot of people.
Yeah, really interesting. It's fascinating to watch the growth of that sport. Now, mate, you get the opportunity to meet lots of individuals and you analyze lots of different brands. And many of them are movers and shakers in that holistic industry. Is there anyone you think we should be keeping an eye on, or any brand we should be keeping an eye on in 2023?
I mean, I could spend hours looking, listing them all. I can give you a few specific ones. So one that just announced, and this is obviously we're investors in one that we invested in. There's one called True Medicine, which is working in the States to provide a way for you to use your health savings account, your tax-free account, for purchasing health and wellness benefits. There's one called Any Distance that is building kind of a social community, digital social community that lets you track your workouts, share, compete, engage. There's one called Ours that is really exciting. It's relationship wellness. It's essentially a modern take on couples counseling and managing like your relationship with your partner. The list can go on, but there's and then another one is just announced is Arquetta, that is essentially a competitor to MyBody, building an all-encompassing platform for trainers and coaches. And I'd say the last one that is exciting is Othership. They are building out, hot and cold breathwork facilities, started in Toronto, now expanding into new markets. Really exciting trend. I think we wrote about it about 6 weeks ago, was the hot and cold plunge, sauna, this like new, and then this kind of third place where people are wanting, back to what I was saying about recreation, in the same way people want to spend and meet at bathhouses again, which obviously was popular many years ago, but now that kind of trend is coming back.
Really interesting, isn't it, that companies are popping up that are focusing on that hot and cold and breath work. It comes back to, I think, what you said earlier about that, looking after ourselves, our health, and almost separating that from the fitness side of things, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really just putting the consumer at the center of the ecosystem versus what previously was mostly gyms. Your life revolved around gyms, and I'm coming as a gym owner. Everything that you did was involved in at that gym, but now it's the consumer. There's so much to choose from and so much opportunity and so much considered recreation and fitness and wellness that it lets them build their own little custom plan around how they live their healthy lifestyle.
Yeah, look, I agree with that. And I think as we all get older, and perhaps the pandemic, for me, I turned 53 this year, and all of a sudden now I've got an infrared sauna and I'm walking on grass in bare feet, and I've got a playlist on my phone, which is breathwork recovery. And it's like, I didn't have that 3 years ago. Be rest assured of that, Anthony.
Yeah, I think that's true for a lot of people, though. The trend really came, and I mean, COVID was a big negative for a lot of people in this space because of gyms and losing clients and shutting down. But it was a benefit to the overall consumer and market, because think about the things that are around now, that breath work and how the growth in mental health and meditation and other things has been. That wouldn't have happened without COVID. It would be many years behind. It accelerated a lot of things and brought, I think, also to the importance of health and the importance of fitness and the importance of wellness front and center. When it was on all the different news stations, everybody was talking about Zoom and coaches and all that stuff. It was cool to see the amount of people that brought that into their life that was new through the pandemic. And I think that's starting to show now through some of the numbers.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I think, well, I'm excited by it. I hope everybody listening is also excited by it and trying to grapple with how they can put that into their businesses. Obviously, January is a huge month in Las Vegas with the CES show. I know you went along. What did you see there? I've always wanted to go. So this is both a personal question and a professional question. What the hell's it like?
Yeah, it's funny. It's not my thing. I'm not a Las Vegas guy at all. and too many things going on, not very health focused if you think about the overall area. So not
Yeah.
something I would ever do again or recommend really. But in terms of what was seen there, it was cool to see just where a lot of the time and money's being spent. And it was a lot that, at least from what I saw, was a ton in wearables. What was happening in data and wearables and new smart rings that are focused on women's health, or what Samsung is doing with the Galaxy Watch and how they're competing with Apple and the Ultra, and what Epicure is doing with hydration skin patches, and what Nix Hydration is doing with skin patches. Really cool. And then a ton on the smart medical side as well. There's a lot of exciting things going on in that space, and not as much as I think the previous years was connected fitness, because obviously the COVID boom of connected fitness, and now there's a bit of a rut happening right now in that space, but still cool to see. There's the integrated Garmin smart bed for sleep, and there's a lot of this like fitness metaverse tracking stuff. So very, I think, out there, not stuff that's going to be consumerized and built on for the masses yet, but cool to see where people are thinking.
But still, it comes back to that common theme of the holistic wellness, doesn't it? It's not fitness anymore. It's everything that we do, the sleeping and the nutrition. It just bundled everything into one.
Exactly.
So what's your insight, Jake? What's Apple up to? What's Jay doing?
Yeah, how about we talk about that for a while? How crazy of a move is that? I remember seeing him teaching like water rowing classes at a conference, in a conference room at a hotel in like Philly or somewhere. And then all of a sudden he's working at Apple. What a move that was.
Yeah.
Crazy. I mean, they're doing so much with the Apple Watch and being the center of an ecosystem. You think about your phone, all of the apps that everything I've mentioned in terms of like a lot of these apps, it all centers around, I think, Apple in a big way, like any distance being through the phone and other things like that. So I think they're doing a phenomenal job being the roads and the bridges, but not getting in the way of what's going on right now, because fitness and wellness is changing at such a rapid rate. And they're just trying to build better devices and systems. And I think there's also been word of a big push on their VR stuff and their augmented reality stuff. So that will be exciting to see where they go, because I do think there's some fitness applications there as well.
It's kind of like, as an industry, we have to not compete with Apple. We have to embrace what they're doing and work out how we can integrate that or collaborate with that into our businesses. Because everyone's got an Apple Watch, so we've got to be able to use that information.
Exactly. And as you can see from the amount of apps coming out and businesses built on top of these systems, it works, and it's a big audience that's worth tapping into.
Now, you said before that Fit Capital, you guys have been investing. What sort of things are piquing your interest around throwing some money at?
Yeah, definitely. There's so many things that we really like in the space. And that's where, our broad look of what it means to be, I'd say, focused on not just fitness, but the overall topic. But here, let me run down our formal list just to have it here. We have first is active lifestyle and recreation, kind of a nod to the pickleball thing. Recreation, adventure sports, trail running, gravel cycling, all of these, climbing, all of these really hobby-based activities that are also active lifestyle. I see tremendous upside there. It's something that I personally spend a ton of time on, and I think anything that lets people have a hobby, a deep passion, but also have that active lifestyle is really cool. Another thing we're looking at is kind of metabolic health, food as medicine, behavior change. Obviously, I think it was 2 issues ago, to touch on these obesity drugs and the problem with obesity, and some of the stats around 73% of adults and 35% of children in the U.S. are overweight or obese, and they're driving 173 billion in annual healthcare costs, which are preventable to a large extent, obviously. And what's getting thrown out there now is Ozempic and other things, but I think there's a lot of other options out there. So trying to back those companies that can have massive change and impact with obesity. Another one for us is aging well, like health span, extension, longevity, improving the quality of life. Very fun topic to be able to say that you can build a company that can help somebody live longer, live healthier, and enjoy more years of their life. I mean, what's more valuable than that?
Yeah, so true. You're only a young bloke. How did you get into this gig?
Yeah, I enlisted in the military very early out of high school. And after spending my time in, I actually, well, before that, I played high school sports and I was big into fitness through sports, strength and conditioning. I was on like the weightlifting team for high school. So it was always a passion of mine. And I was an overweight kid. So, I got into fitness to overcome being both Joe and I were. There's some pictures that are pretty brutal. So he got into it. He's a little bit older, and then he brought me into it, and then it just became our life. And then after the military, which obviously in the military, fitness is a big part of what you do. And then the first thing I did was get certified as a trainer and start training people. So I think it started when I was 21, 22. Started training people, and that led to us opening gyms, getting all the certifications that you can, and spending as much time as possible being the best version of a fitness professional at such a young age. I never went to college or anything. And that was it. That was my career since then. It was so many different paths and areas down, but it all stemmed from love of fitness and then being a trainer and a coach and trying to make the most out of that.
Fascinating story. And then now to hear you evolving from just being, so focused on the fitness side of things and probably the lifting and the HIIT training and the running or whatever else, to now focusing on health and longevity, anti-aging. Really interesting journey.
Thanks. I think probably goes with a lot of people in general that go through this. I mean, hearing you talk about where you ended up and the things you're spending your time and money on, your interest in, at least for me, the like bodybuilding and aesthetic training and hypertrophy was fueled by being younger and trying to look better and what that means. And then as you kind of get older, it shows, for me at least, and what has fueled us to stay in the industry is if you don't have health, nothing else matters, truly. Because you could have money, you could have things, you could have whatever, but if you're not there to enjoy it, or you're not able to enjoy it because of limitations on health, it doesn't really matter. So that's what broadened my kind of horizon on like what is holistic health and what does it mean to, not go in 400 pounds, but walk 6 miles a day because it's better for your heart and get those 10 to 15,000 steps. Or what does mobility mean? And like, we've been fortunate to have Kelly start out on the podcast, and him and Juliet, what they're doing with like mobility and how you spend 10 minutes a day and your back won't hurt anymore, your knees won't hurt. There's just so many unique things going on in fitness that build towards just a better overall life. And for me, at least, how much I lift and certain things of how much muscle I have just isn't a priority anymore.
I love that. And I think that's just such great insight and powerful insight for our industry in general. Like, if you don't have your health, what have you got? That's a very telling statement.
Yeah, and that's what gets me too sometimes with our industry is there's a big focus on trainers and coaches and what training is better. My HIIT training is better than your, spin class or whatever. But then you look at the stats and 73% of adults are overweight or obese. And it's like, got to stop talking about the modality and the training and start talking about how we can get more people moving and get more people. I mean, it's in previous newsletters, but like the stats on how many people walk less than 2,000 steps a day is bananas. Crazy. So it's like, that's where I'm at, is what companies, what products, what founders, what brands are going to get people moving, get people interested in their health. And I mentioned this on another podcast I was on not too long ago, and there's a lot of judgment that goes into people that are overweight and obese. And there's a lot of talk around motivation and lack of discipline and other things. But I actually look at it and say, if you are healthy, that's an accomplishment, because there's so much money and time and lack of resources and lack of financial ability and built around, why some people are overweight or obese, like especially here in the United States, at least, food deserts and lack of knowledge around what's healthy. And when you go to certain food supermarkets and you see 47 aisles of crap in like one small aisle of vegetables, it's no wonder that there's issues. So yeah, it's just a crazy thing. And we're looking to hopefully fund and work with people that are truly making an impact of those things at scale.
I love that. It's such a great story and so relevant as well. You would be, being in the US, you'd be unaware, but we've just had our Australian of the Year announced, and her name was Taryn Bumford. And Taryn is leading the charge globally, but particularly in Australia, around body image, particularly for kids and for women. And really fascinating story where she was a bodybuilder and she thought that she would have been happy with the perfect body. And she rose to prominence, global prominence, when she posted a before and after photo, where the before photo was her in a bikini on stage competing in like a bodybuilding competition. And the after was her with a few extra pounds with the biggest smile on her face. It was quite an incredible story. And it's great for us to start to think that, and her message is it's how you feel on the inside. It's not how you look on the outside.
I totally agree. And it's kind of a crazy thing to think about. I see it a ton when we write and post online and people respond, and there's always somebody that's like, oh, obesity is just because people are lazy, or being overweight just because people are lazy. And you're like, there's a lot mentally, physically, emotionally that goes into that. And you can't judge people for it. All you can kind of do is hope that, you can feel better about yourself and truly be healthy.
Wow, this interview didn't quite go the way I was thinking it was going to go, but a fascinating conversation, because you're right. As an industry, we are getting the fitter with more modalities and variety, but the chasm between the fit and the unfit is growing, and that unfit is also becoming unhealthy. And that if we can cross that bridge, there's a huge opportunity for the industry to work out how to get into that area and support people who are unhealthy. So thank you. You've been quite thought-provoking. I've got one final question for you, and it's kind of simple in a way and challenging in another way. Have you got any thoughts on, with the economic shifts that we're going through, labor shortages, tech, and I guess plenty of other variables that are being thrown at us as an industry? What's the stability look like? What's our resilience look like as an industry with all these variables?
Yeah, there's a ton that goes into that. And there's kind of two parts to it. The first part is, I think, when you think of the waves of kind of cuts that the consumer is going to have to go through, and those that are spending on gyms and other things, I think that unlike previous recessions, that the spend on fitness and wellness is going to not be cut in that first wave. I think people see it as the benefit to them. It's what it emotionally, a lot of people rely on going to the gym. It's their outlet. It's what they need to do, as well as, like I was saying previously, socially. So I do think that, unlike previous recessions and other economic kind of downturns, this won't be one that the first thing you're going to do is cut your gym membership or cut your spend on fitness and wellness, but which is a benefit for the industry. And I think that as long as as an industry we can deliver that value, they'll stick around. But that it comes to say, there obviously is a certain point where, as things continue to grow and inflation and cost, you just can't spend on things other than the essentials. So I hope we don't reach that point anytime over the next couple of years, but it definitely is a possibility. But I'm hoping that things can turn around for a lot of people, and it's a positive to see that people are prioritizing their spending and looking at health and wellness as something that is a necessity versus just a luxury.
Okay, so what are your top 3 trends that you think will continue to grow or emerge this year, Anthony?
A big one for me is third places. It's like members only clubs, climbing gyms, wellness studios, fitness focused third places, like the company Othership that is doing hot and cold therapy, or Remedy Place that's in New York right now doing those things. It's the modern day social clubs. I think that especially for the younger generations, like with my friends and I, when we meet up, it's around fitness and wellness, so spending that time there. And then the second one is sports and recreation, golf, tennis, run groups, hiking, being outside, physically active. I think that the trend of fitness from 2010 to 2020 was kind of like studio, boutique, really focused on the gym. 2020 to 2030 for us is really this active lifestyle. run, hike, bike, be outside, do more, be more and active. And you're seeing those numbers out there. And that's something that I think a lot of people are trying to capitalize on. The last thing is underserved audiences, whether it's seniors, boomers, Gen Z, whether it's disengaged exercisers. There's a lot of people that previously didn't fit into the traditional gap of marketing and interest that the fitness industry was focused on. Whether it's new startups coming, targeting training and physical therapy and health for these different types of consumers, or even from like an emotional, mental side, companies building for these non-traditional consumers, massive opportunity.
Three great trends. And you know that because you do all the study on all of this information, and it's been a fantastic chat today. I'm so grateful for your time and squeezing us in for a chat and an understanding around what Fit Insider does, your journey, and also just your perspective on the industry. This show is about current affairs, and you certainly are in the trenches every day with the current affairs of the holistic industry, as we've talked about today. So thank you so much, Anthony. It's been awesome.
Yeah, really appreciate having me. Great to talk to you and your audience, and excited about everything that's going on.
Awesome.